I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 28. What a scary Changming sect. The great secret realm appeared suddenly. No one had done a strategy on this secret realm before, and no one knew what dangers were in it. Halfway along with Yi Qiao, Duan Hengdao felt somewhat regretful for his previous impulsiveness. Why did he get so hot-headed that he agreed to follow Yi Qiao out to hunt for treasure? Not to mention whether they can find a chance. As far as their team is concerned, they have 2 golden cores and 1 builds a foundation. If they encounter a big monster, they will only be tortured. It's useless to regret now, so I can only bite the bullet and go in. The environment of the secret realm was normal on the first day, and it got weirder as it went on. The sky darkened, and the few people planned to rest for one night before taking action tomorrow. Yi Qiao took the time to study Yue Qingzong's heart method and talisman book. The talisman is inseparable from its source, and the formation talisman itself is not difficult to draw. The key to success is the precise control of the position, and the level of proficiency. In addition to formation talismans, there are also formation-breaking talismans of all kinds. No wonder all talismans are rare. After learning these things, one would have to overdraw one's consciousness. Yi Qiao's fingertips imitated Yue Qingzong's formation talisman, and it didn't seem to be difficult. She simply drew her breath on the spot, flipped through the talisman book and began to imitate Yue Qingzong's formation talisman. With the Langhao brush given by the 4th senior brother in hand, the probability of failure has been greatly reduced by several %. Duan Hengdao and Mu Chongxi next to her was sleeping soundly. She was afraid of danger, so she could only draw the talisman while paying attention to her surroundings. Movement. Soon unconsciously, more and more talismans were drawn. Yi Qiao wiped the cold sweat on her palms from holding the pen too tightly. Wake up, she reminded, someone is coming. Duan Hengdao opened his eyes in a daze. Who? Yi Qiao. I don't know. She noticed it when she drew the talisman just now, and she didn't wake him up because of the distance. You knew someone was coming from such a distance. Duan Hengdao scratched his head, feeling strange. It stands to reason that the ones with the strongest spiritual sense should be Fu Xiu, Dan Xiu and Qi Xiu. Because they are all a group of craftsmen, they need to use their spiritual consciousness to refine tools, melt alchemy and draw symbols, so their sea of consciousness has been tempered very broadly, and their perception of danger is also more sensitive. The width of the sea of consciousness is also related to his cultivation. He is at the golden core stage, and Yi Qiao just built his foundation, so how could it be wider than himself? Before he could figure out why, Yi Qiao shook a small dozen of talismans in his hand and grinned. Brothers, she said, come to live. Mu Chongxi looked at her with a bewildered smile, and couldn't help but shudder. To live, what are you doing? Yi Qiao had just finished drawing the talisman and needed someone to test it, but someone bumped into it so quickly, and she finally didn't have to bother her own people this time. Are you going to play the sticker game? She waved the talisman in her hand gracefully. I still have a lot here, who will post it when the time comes. Duan Hengdao has never seen someone so bold as to use so many talismans to stick to others. It stands to reason that there are usually at most 5 or 6 talisman repairing and drawing talismans a day, and the sea of knowledge will be overdrawn. He took it for granted that this symbol was painted by Ming Xuan. Your senior brother still loves you. Duan Hengdao could only say so. Yi Qiao, why can't she understand people's words? Do you want it? I want it. The two quickly took it over. Who would not want a talisman to use, and the talisman is also precious, usually held in the hands of the talisman cultivator, and it was the first time for them to touch the talisman. Duan Hengdao looked left and right. Extremely rare. Wow, there are so many talismans. Ming Xuan must have been drawing them for a long time, right? What is the effect of these talismans? When Yi Qiao heard him explaining Xuan, she knew that Duan Hengdao must have misunderstood something, but she didn't explain it, so let the misunderstanding go. They were still rivals in the big competition, and revealing that she can draw symbols so early will only add trouble to herself. Basically, they are formation talismans, and a few are offensive talismans. Use whatever you want. I have plenty more. Yi Qiao is very arrogant. Seeing this, Duan Hengdao wants to eat lemons with jealousy. He also wants a brother who can draw talismans, so that when he goes out, he can throw talismans if he can't hit them, and he can smash those people if he smashes them die. The three of them were gathering together to study the talismans in their hands when a strange man's voice came from behind them. Which sect are you disciples? Yi Qiao turned her head, feeling refreshed by the green imperial uniforms of those people rushing towards her. Such a green sect. She took 2 steps back, squeezed the talisman tightly, and did not answer, but tried calmly, I don't know which sect your fellow Taoist belongs to. The other party's attitude was very arrogant, Xuan Yunzong. Yi Qiao had never heard of it. Duan Hengdao was slightly taken aback, leaned closer to her ear, and whispered, Ah. I know, it's quite a big sect. Although it's incomparable with our 5 sects, it's still quite well known in the cultivation world. Their sect claims to be a decent sect, but I think they will definitely have something to talk about with Moxiu in the future. Low EQ, there is no difference between style and magic repair. High EQ, there must be something to talk about with Moxiu. Yi Qiao said she understood. What are you dawdling about? The leading man raised his chin maliciously, otherwise, don't blame me for killing a few people to feed my sword. Duan Hengdao frowned, feeling particularly disgusted with the style of this sect. He was about to announce the name of his sect, but was stopped by Yi Qiao. Joke. How can you declare your clan name at this time? Pulling hatred must pull the enemy's sect. Yi Qiao ignored him, and the talisman in her hand flew towards his face. The explosive talisman was quickly ignited and the man's hair stood on end with a bang. Before he could react, she threw a few more in the past, and Mu Chongxi also began to imitate her and throw those people's faces. Taking advantage of his illness to kill him, he can consume a wave even if he is not killed. The talismans were thrown down one after another. Even if the man had already reached the golden core, he couldn't stand it, and he spit out a mouthful of blood. Senior brother. The disciple next to him in the same green imperial uniform hurriedly supported the man, with a bit of cruelty flashing in his eyes. Are they from the Yuqing sect? The girl was wearing regular clothes and couldn't tell which sect she was in, but she was definitely not a casual cultivator if she could take out so many talismans. I'm afraid it's not from the small sect. Mu Chongxi didn't use the sword, but threw the talisman together, which gave them the illusion that all 3 of them were talisman cultivators. There are so many talisman masters, could it be that group of Yue Qingzong? The talisman cultivators of the major sects are basically in the Yuqing sect. Changmingzong also has a talisman, but every direct disciple of Changmingzong is known as a good old man, honest and stupid. It can't be someone from Changmingzong. But Yue Qingzong was notoriously shameless for resources, and the disciple instantly felt that he was the truth. It must be the shameless personal heirs of Yue Qingzong. Duan Hengdao saw how happy the 2 were throwing the talisman. He was eager to try and immediately joined the camp of throwing the talisman. What he held in his hand was the confinement talisman, which was blessed with a golden core cultivation base. The man in the same realm was still injured, so he couldn't hide at all. Past. The speed flew away, and the golden runes flashed past, forming a formation to imprison people in place. The man's face was distorted, and he sneered. Isn't it a personal heir of Yue Qingzong? Okay, I remember you. The confinement talisman Duan Hengdao threw was quite effective. Song Hansheng used this formation to confine the casual cultivators to a certain area, but now several of them are temporarily unable to get out. Yi Qiao calculates the time, and probably can last for 5 minutes and they're out. Yi Qiao was afraid that they would come out and beat her up, so she turned her head and shouted, "Why are you standing there? Keep hitting." She drew a bunch of weird talismans and had no place to experiment. Isn't this the experimental product delivered to the door? Duan Hengdao gradually discovered the joy in it. There are all kinds of talismans in it, such as Ha-Ha talisman, crawling talisman, sleeping talisman, odor talisman, whatever they come from. He couldn't help shivering. What a terrifying Chang Mingzong. Why did Mingxuan develop into a crooked way if he couldn't be a decent talisman cultivator? In case Dabi meets someone from the Changming sect in the future, just being tortured by these talismans can torture them enough. Yi Qiao used the talisman to delay the time for a while, and soon arrived at Yue Qingzong, and the three groups were caught off guard. Song Hansheng noticed Yi Qiao at the first sight. With new and old grudges added up, he immediately prepared to settle accounts with her, and uttered 2 words, "Yi Qiao." Yi Qiao's eyes lit up suddenly. She waved at him enthusiastically, and shouted, "Senior brother Song, come and save us." She pointed at the members of Xuanyan sect, with a look of domineering. These few members of the Pheasant sect actually want to provoke our Yuqing sect. They really don't know how to live or die. Song Han said, What? What is, we, Yuqingzong? Who and you are us?" He was dumbfounded for a second, and the Xuanyanzong disciple who was ridiculed immediately became furious, picked up his sword and slashed in Song Hansheng's direction. Fu Xiu was not good at close combat. Song Hansheng quickly retreated a safe distance. He was not stupid, and immediately understood that Yi Qiao was trying to divert trouble. Don't listen to their nonsense, they are clearly from the Changming sect and the Changfeng sect disciple. Song Hansheng gritted his teeth. I don't know her well at all. The man from Xuanyanzong obviously didn't believe it. Unfamiliar. Who are you fooling? Didn't you just call her by her name as soon as she came up? Brother, don't listen to his rambling. Let's go, show them some flair. A disciple drew out his sword impatiently. Jianshu generally has a fiery temper and is easily agitated. In addition, Yi Qiao also raged wildly at the side. "Yeah, senior brother Song, how could you do this? We are the inner sect of Yue Qingzong. You make us so sad." "Shut up." Song Hansheng was about to go mad. "Are you blind? Can't you see that they have 2 sword cultivators and 1 weapon cultivator? Our Yuqing sect doesn't have weapon cultivators, and there is only 1 sword cultivator." Yi Qiao's voice suddenly rose, overshadowing his words. "What? How dare you call them blind? Senior brother, even if you are the chief disciple of Yue Qingzong, you can't talk like that." Qi Yunzong was even more annoyed when he heard that. He hated those members of the 5 sects the most. All of them were pretentious. Don't let them run away. I want to see what a group of talisman cultivators are so arrogant about. He picked up his sword and joined the battlefield with a grinning grin. Song Han cursed the idiot secretly, and immediately didn't bother wasting words with these mindless creatures, and pinched the talisman in his hand, and the scene broke out in an instant. Yi Qiao had a great time playing fish in the troubled water beside her. She didn't hit anyone, she just shuttled around, kicking and kicking from time to time. The 2 people who were assassinated thought it was each other's hands, and the fight became more intense immediately, and they seemed to be in a hurry. After making the water even more chaotic, Yi Qiao waved at the 2 of them, and just brushed off her clothes, hiding her sense of merit and fame, and ran away with a group of people. Duan Hengdao didn't do anything, just followed behind him the whole time, watching Yi Qiao's operation make people on both sides start doing it. He said, "Got it. Chevron_left chevron_"